The world has never changed faster and will never change slower. Welcome to the We Are Future series, where we get to talk to global thought leaders and industry experts on all things digital, technology and innovation, and how it impacts the way we live, work, act and interact. Now tune in for those candid conversations and be part of creating the future of work.
So I'm really happy to be doing this interview today. Monty Hooke is someone that I've known professionally for about 7 years and personally for 10. So our relationship's been a long, substantial one. He brought me into his business that he founded back in 2012, Easy VA, and it's evolved to what is now known now as Exponential. And it's in the offshoring, so he's based in Manila, and there's quite a sizable team, some leaders that have been working the business for a few years now, I believe. But Monty, in terms of 2019, knowing that this was the year that Exponential really launched, what has been your focus with the business?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Thanks for that introduction. So, yeah, it's definitely changed over the years. So we're, as you mentioned, Easy VA. It was known as originally. We were positioned to provide virtual assistance, which is where the VA part comes from, to small businesses and micro businesses. And we grew along the way, and we've kind of evolved, I guess, as we've discovered what we're really great at and what we're not so great at. And also, I guess, part of that also is what the market is moving towards, I guess. But probably our biggest actions, and my biggest actions personally for 2019, has been this rebrand. So we were known as Easy VA, and this year we pulled the trigger and rebranded it to be called the Exponential. And the reason for that is because over the years we kind of outgrew Easy VA, I guess. So, we found over the years that we were very, very good on the consulting side and actually going into businesses and helping them deconstruct what's happening in their business, and then build out the architecture for them to help them scale, part of which is building out their teams and some of that offshore. So, rather than just being an offshoring solution where we just provide staff and offices and very linear kind of stuff, we are more immersed and more passionate about the idea of helping businesses to scale, and helping them not just to scale, but helping them to expand and build culture and build meaning into their business. So that's the biggest thing for 2019, and there's a lot of moving parts to that, and we've got offices and team, so there's a lot of logistics that had to happen with that, and a lot of systems that had to change. But we're through all that now, and it's all very exciting for 2019, and the direction more and more as we unfold the Exponential is certainly working with purpose-driven businesses. So that is really our focus. And what's really interesting, I guess, is we're kind of malleable on what the products are. What's our service offering. It's more about who we want to work with than it is about what we're offering. So that's probably the biggest discernment, I guess, for what we're doing in 2019, if that makes sense.
I wanted to just check some of the things that you were saying around that evolution with Exponential, and I guess elaborate a little bit more, is that I've noticed is around evolving the business so that you stay relevant in terms of the services that you're offering to clients. So it's not just this evolution that clients are going through, or the types of clients that you're attracting, but also creating in the business model some flexibility and adaptability, so that you can be a vehicle for scaling people's businesses. So something that's traditionally always been offshoring and just looking at it one-dimensionally, it sounds like you've also been experiencing the opportunities of working differently with customers. Would that be right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's something that has evolved partly due to what our clients have been asking for. And so essentially our bread and butter for the last however many years has been building out teams of staff for small small businesses in Australia. So a typical scenario for us would be, working with a, office in Brisbane. They might have, 7 or 8 people working from that office, and then they want to expand and put people in place. So we might build out over the span of several years, build out a team of 10 people for them, right? And as they expand their business in Australia, we expand their operation and their team out of the Philippines. So it becomes an extension of their team and their business and their operation and their culture in Australia. And it's what's been important over the years is to get that balance right. And we've worked very closely with businesses. Especially you have. This is one thing that you've done very, very well, Jen, is helping to get that balance right of what needs to get managed and what needs to the systems and everything getting born out of and put in place in Australia, and then duplication really happens out of the Philippines where there is very definable roles. So I think a lot of businesses go wrong in outsourcing and offshoring by just trying to save money and just trying to put in as many people as they can offshore. So we've really kind of held true to that, and that's held us in good stead, because where we've seen businesses say, yeah, we want to put in these staff, we kind of look at it and say, no, that's not going to work for you. We've, as I mentioned before, we're more interested in helping the business with actually what's going to work and helping them scale, rather than just taking their word for it, taking job descriptions and putting people in place. So one of the things that has come up a lot over the years is, for any business of any size, for especially SMEs, is this need for, digital services, web development, web support, graphic design, all these kind of things. So especially in this era now where, social media is so critical and so important, for a business that existed before social media, for them to try to catch up it's a tall ask, right? So, but there's a lot of things that need to get done inside that, a lot of development, a lot of production. So what we've successfully been able to do is support our clients in that. So we've had our own in-house web developers, graphic designers, video editors, all that kind of thing. We haven't publicly promoted it as a service because we wanted to keep it exclusive to our clients and make sure that the quality is maintained. But because the quality is so good, of course I'm biased, but we're very confident in that now, and we've got good project managers in place. So what we've been able to do through this rebranding and launch of the Exponential is create what we've now called Agency X, and that's where SMEs can plug into a full-time dedicated team of digital producers, anything to do with web graphics, podcast support, video editing, integrations with different systems and CRMs and all this kind of stuff. Most businesses don't have the capacity or the need to hire full-time people for that, right? So what businesses typically tend to do is they gravitate towards using freelancers for these things, because the sphere of freelancers in the world now is massive. Using Upwork and Freelancer.com, etc. And that has its place. But one thing that we've found is that for any business who wants to be in a position to scale, they should not be working with freelancers, right? You can use freelancers for, the odd very technical things, but what most businesses need is they need their own, you could say in-house, reliable resources, right? So, but because most businesses don't need it, they can't afford it or whatever, we've been able to now put this Agency X together, which is, we've got a full team of people. There's a project manager, and then essentially any business can plug into it and get any work done on demand, right? So rather than hiring a web developer for full-time, 40 hours per week, rather than working with a freelancer who is inherently unreliable, they work for themselves, they make their own rules, there's communication issues, there's, typhoons, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. We have our own offices in the Philippines, obviously, and these staff are permanent employees of our company here. And basically businesses can tap into that resource on demand anytime they need, but they're reliable as if they were your own team. So I guess this is a reflection also of what we've seen in the market as well, in that, there's been this massive boom of working with freelancers and, the gig economy and people working for themselves, etc. And I 100% believe that that's the way the world's going to go, more and more so. However, as a business, it's actually not the best thing to just be working with freelancers, right?
Yeah.
So that in itself can cause issues. So the structure that we've got with Agency X has been an ongoing demand for businesses, especially in those ones that are, pretty well established small businesses, especially those ones that are sort of, 7 or 8 staff plus, already making money, already doing well, already have their place in the market, and they're not kind of finding their feet. I mean, obviously working with freelancers works as a startup because you can save money, but it's not reliable, right? So yeah, we've really just, I guess, tapped into what we've seen, what we've been asking for, and formalized it. And, we've been working on it for years in the background. So yeah, it's working really well.
Yeah, cool. So you did mention one of the changes you've noticed is been more and more people moving into working for themselves, which has hence, evolved the service offering of Exponential. Have there been other innovations or changes that have impacted your industry or the way that you've been doing business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation, I guess, because if that's the right term, but obviously in this world where businesses are starting to allow their staff to work remotely and become consultants and that kind of thing, have flexible working arrangements and solutions, etc. There's pros and cons to it, right? So I'm also just reflecting on what I see, with other businesses and what's happening out there in the world. But, 100% that's the way that the world is going to go. But the way that I kind of see it is not so much that everyone's on their own and working as freelancers, right? So you can be an independent consultant, an independent person, making your own rules and etc. But you can work inside a team. Now, I think that's kind of the next landscape to navigate. And that's really, I guess, the direction that we're moving towards, because it's really been one or the other, right? It's really been, you work for a company, you're in an office and you're with a big team and you're part of the machine. Or, if you get sick of that, then you become independent freelancer consultant, you work for yourself and then you just contract to whomever, but you're on your own, right? I really see a lot of the future is going to be where, there's some kind of hybrid system, some kind of hybrid model where you can be independent, but you're part of it. You're plugged into a team, and then businesses are hiring that team. So yeah, that's just one of the things that, I'm not Nostradamus, but that's one of the things I do see a need for. Yeah. And I do think it will happen more and more, because I think just the whole independent freelancer thing, yeah, I mean, it has its place and it works with high level people, right? It works with people who have been immersed in corporate culture and, they have a lot of critical thinking, etc. And they have that ability to work for themselves. But I think a lot of people don't, right? I think a lot of people romanticize about the idea of working for themselves, but they actually get lost in it, right? And everybody's different. Everybody has different reasons. Some people just need to be part of something, right? So I think when people are, even if they're working with other people, some people will get isolated and it won't work for them. So, yeah, that's part of it. Another thing that I guess I've seen has been, for, just in reflection of what I've seen with a lot of our clients and what I see happening in the world, is integrating entrepreneurship into businesses. So not just having staff or talent do very specific roles, it's really embedding this idea of nurturing entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship into people, so that kind of becomes part of the business. And it's in the same conversation as what I was talking about before, to nurture this culture of and this world of entrepreneurship, and people being able to have the assets of being an entrepreneur, but not necessarily tactically positioned as an entrepreneur. So, I mean, they're very useful skills to have as a person, I think, to have that ability. So, yeah, that's another thing probably that I've seen as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very cool. Especially the stuff around the hybrid of work. Even me personally, I've had to look at collaborating with different partnerships, obviously with the same specialization, but potentially for different markets. So it's interesting that you're also seeing that as a trend to the way that people are working. And entrepreneurship, I think, what used to be a dirty word maybe 10 years ago, people are absolutely, I think there's a lot of appetite for bringing some of that mindset that an entrepreneur or a traditional entrepreneur has into even just the biggest of corporate environments, due to the fact that things are changing so quickly. They do need minds to start or people to start thinking differently about not just their jobs, but also the type of work that they do, because it will no doubt change regardless of what their position title is. Do you see any particular impact to these innovations or changes outside the ones you've shared? Like, so, you mentioned some people might find themselves in isolation because they haven't really grasped the idea that the way people are working are changing. What, I guess, for an individual would you suggest as advice, knowing that these trends are happening right now?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So one, I think that is really important, and it's happening more and more as time goes on, and it is a good thing, is the ability or the culture in any business to nurture each individual based on what are their gifts and abilities, right? So rather than just locking people down into, here's your job description and do what you got to do, it's really, I think there's so much value in discovering, uncovering, and nurturing people's inherent gifts and abilities, right? So giving people that's why I think this conversation around entrepreneurship can give, what it can do is it can give people some tools to really flourish, right? Where people might have been used to, being so segmented in a particular position, and this is all they've ever done. You give them the tools around entrepreneurship, and they might do something really amazing for the business and for themselves, right? By giving them access to be able to think like that and get out of the box. But it can go the other way as well. Some people are meant to just be technicians, right? And then they might be an amazing creative artist, or really brilliant in their craft, whatever that is. And the whole entrepreneurship conversation may not be as valid to them, but by taking them through the process of that, I think that helps people to find what is right for them, rather than that being dictated to them by the job description, if that makes sense. So I think one of the biggest probably impacts in all of this conversation, and it's, in the world of why so many people now want to work for themselves, is because they want to have more meaning in what they're doing, right? And they want to, and that is down to nurturing their gifts, their abilities, and finding their own place in the world and being able to flourish in that. I think that's a major impact, right? It's like, if you can have a world of people who are amazing in their craft, businesses might need to change in terms of how they work with them or how they place them, and, having such rigid job descriptions around what needs to be done. I think if there's a little bit more freedom around nurturing people to uncover what those things are, then there's massive impact. to the individuals and massive potential implications to the business as well. But I also think that comes down to the leadership as well, right? So, I mean, if you've got innovative leaders that can see the potential in that way, then it'll work. But if you've got leaders that are, so rigid in their approach, and then, they were just given some kind of strategy to try to nurture, the staff or the talent as having, building in that entrepreneurship thinking, I think it could fall on its ass, pretty bad, pretty badly, right? Because got to come from the top down. The person at the top, the people at the top need to know how to capture that, how to embrace that, and how to use that for the business's advantage. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest impact. The other big thing that I see as well, and this is huge for us, and it's one of the major reasons for changing the brand, is purely around purpose, right? It's like more and more people are just demanding that they work with businesses and for businesses, and who they choose to buy from, that are purpose-driven businesses. And there's a lot of conversation all the time around Gen Y, and they're this and they're that. But the thing that I love about Gen Y is they're born broken out of the paradigm. They're born broken out of the rules. What they are looking for is meaning and experience in their life, right? So, and I think that's actually it's actually a beautiful thing for the world. So, that's probably the other major impact that I see, where businesses really do need to embrace more. And it's obviously harder to do with bigger businesses. Big corporates, they have, their social programs and stuff, but it seems a little bit forced. It's like, they have to do it. It's like, it's what they have to do. So it's not really embedded into the brand and the culture of the business. And it can come across a little bit fake, right?
Yeah.
So I think businesses really do need to embrace purpose and impact and, social contribution, actually standing for something in the world. We see it, we're lucky. We get to see that with our clients. And it's much easier to do with a small business than a big business. But I think there's just going to come a time and place where people are just going to not choose to, buy from companies like that, and they're just not going to choose to work for companies like that. So it's just the way that it's going to go.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's definitely something I've noticed. And, we talked about social media being a powerful platform to send messages. And this is probably a good example of, maybe there's some really great things that are happening internally, but then the consumer or the perception of the brand, you wouldn't know. And even just from a recruitment point of view, like you said, do people know what that your business is contributing to good? Is it making an impact that's outside profit, like that you're actually making something of a contribution to the greater good, the community, and making this world a better place? And I think things like social media help, or force, encourage, maybe is a better word, not force, companies to look at, that perception of their brand in the world, and, the people that they're attracting, or the people that they have, and, what they're doing in order to live and breathe that. So it's a really good point. I think that's absolutely going to be the future.
Yeah, and just to add to that, as I mentioned before, I mean, there is a fakeness that can happen, right? It's like when business see, this other business, they're doing really well, and they've embedded these social causes through the business, and you can see that it's weaved into the fabric of the brand, and you can see that. And then other businesses look at that and go, let's do that. And then they start, telling the world, we're doing this, we're contributing to this charity, and we're doing this. But it's not really weaved into the fabric of the business, right? And it's got to go deeper than just that surface level look at us, right? It's got to, because people can feel it, people can see it. People are smart now. That's the great thing about social media and the internet now is everything is seen, right? People can't hide anymore, So that's why we are now in the era of, and this is probably the most valuable lesson for any business of any size, is the businesses now that have leaders who you can see out who on social media and what they're doing. So it's not just about the business. It's not like, hey, we're a business, look at us, look at all the things we're doing. It's where individuals at every level of the business have their own personal brands, right? And people can see what they're doing in their jobs, in the work, how they've integrated their work-life balance and how much they enjoy what they do. And because social media now works not just by posting stuff to look, it works by documenting, right? It's like, getting insight into people's lives. So if all you ever see on a business's social media page is, hey, look at us, rather than the real life documenting of this is what's really going on for the business and for the individuals at every level, then I think there's just going to be this element of fakeness. So that's really the place where businesses and especially leaders need to stand up and be authentic.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you've already touched on quite a few things that are innovating the offshoring industry and also what Exponential is doing or who Exponential is working with. So I'd love to ask, Monty, what are you personally excited about in terms of what's coming up, technology-wise, innovation-wise, and that could be on a personal level or professional level? What changes are you really excited to see?
Yeah, it's on a similar vein in that I'm excited to see what solutions and thinking comes out of the new generation, right? So when businesses are just there for profit, then there's going to come a time, I know businesses need to make money and, we need to make money. And if I can't afford to, pay myself and feed the dog, then it's a problem. But what I'm excited about is businesses moving towards being more socially minded, more mindful about the planet, their footprint, how they touch people, their meaning, what they stand for. And then by virtue of that, them winning and making money and expanding and growing because of that, not the other way around, right? So that's what I'm most excited about. So I really think that, if you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, right? 17 goals. If people haven't, looked into that, check that out. That is a framework that was really put together for businesses, right? It is not governments and institutions that are going to be the ones to change the world, because they just have systems that are just so embedded in, that are just old, right? And they're just money driven. So it's going to take entrepreneurship, and it's going to take influential business leaders to step up and do that and make it so that the world is not all about making money and all about greed. And so that's probably the thing that I'm most excited about being part of. On a personal level, I guess we're also building out some technology to help small businesses to embed giving into their business. So we're part of B1G1, which is Business for Good. Now, B1G1 is a giving platform. So to kind of put it in simple terms, they are the aggregator for businesses to contribute to charities, right? Now, what most people and what most businesses do is they wait until a time where they're making money or they've got enough in the bank or whatever, and then they say, all right, well, then we'll contribute. Then once a year, we'll do this social program or whatever. It's the issue with that is that day can never come because if you're in business, there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things come up. The business grows, you make more sales, and then, you need to hire the next round of people. You need new offices. There's always something, right? So this idea of integrating giving every day into the business is something that we have, that we've done at the Exponential. So to give you an idea, with Agency X, for every task that gets done, like, a video production, a graphic design, whatever, no matter how long it takes, we contribute through B1G1, the giving platform, to a social cause. So we give either, I think it's a month of clean water to a family in Ethiopia. We give a month's supply of seeds to support feeding people in Ethiopia, or we provide bricks to build a school in Cambodia, right? Now, that's something that has been embedded into the business rather than waiting for that time, waiting for that day to come. It's just now part of our business. It's part of our culture. And what's exciting is that our clients get to be part of that process. The staff get to be part of that process. And, sure, it's something that we can post and people can see, but it's beyond that, right? Even if we never told anybody about it, it's part of the energy that we come to work with, right? So my personal mission is to expand on that for ourselves at the Exponential, but also to get this kind of technology and this kind of thinking out to as many businesses as possible. And that's really, I guess, my personal mission. And that starts with, us doing that ourselves. So, yeah.
That's really cool. And so lastly, Monty, if people who are listening to this want to get in touch, what would be the best way for people to reach out to you?
So yeah, reach out to me. Actually, what would be cool is if people reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I'll actually send people, let me clarify. One of my virtual assistants will probably check the LinkedIn message and reply, and we'll give people a link where they can go to a page and they can be part of this giving process. So one of the things I do is for every new connection I have on LinkedIn, I give people the opportunity to contribute, right? So meaning we actually give through B1G1, either, I think it's, similar to what I mentioned before, a week of water, a week of seeds, and a week of e-learning, I think it is. And so for every new connection, we actually contribute that. That's a real live thing. But if people want to contact me or us, I can send you a link and you can be part of that, right? You can be the one to choose. You can see how that works for yourself. So that would be the coolest way to connect with me. So that way you can kind of see firsthand this whole thing. And, what's really interesting is that starts a lot of conversations, and it really captures engagement with people that we're aligned with, right? So it's kind of like a bit of it's a marketing, tactic, I guess. But it's not like, hey, look at us, we're the best outsourcing company, come and buy from us. That's not how we engage with people, because we want to discern who we want to work with. So that's a real life example, and that would be a cool way to connect. So LinkedIn, look me up, Monty Hooke, or go to the website, exponential.business. And from there, look for the impact page. Okay, so look for the impact page, and you can, book a call. If you've got specific questions around outsourcing and all that kind of stuff, you can check that out on the website. But yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody personally.
That's cool. And Monty, obviously I'm biased as well, but thank you so much for your time. I always love hearing your insights and what you're doing in the space of not just Exponential, but also creating, social purpose in terms of what what B1G1 is all about, but also what the future of businesses is all about too. So thank you for sharing some of those gold nuggets, and I will talk to you no doubt soon. Thanks to everyone who's been listening in.
And that wraps up another insightful conversation about the future of work. And now we want to hear from you. What was the biggest takeaway from this conversation? Make sure you share your learnings on LinkedIn and also tag our guest speakers. And of course, if you or somebody you know has some more interesting take on the future of work, send us an email to contact@wearefuture.com. Until next time, and keep creating the future of work.